Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news, or arguably video game news and then Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, because the emphasis really is more on the video game news at this point. I kind of dropped the ball, and I'm gonna have to try either give up on this 50 gems or try a completely different deck that allows for a lot of special summoning. It definitely feels like they threw in this challenge of special summoning without really thinking it all the way through. We've got 3 days until the daily quest is done, but I don't even think we're going to do any daily quest at all today, as far as ranked play, because we are just going to try and get the last few victories, if we can get the last few victories in the festival. I should have been playing the festival. I didn't play the festival. Instead, I opted to wrap up my interest as far as the Circuit Playground Express and just program in a already made password vault code in program into it and call it a day. It is a decent idea of a learning tool. It needs, I think, a second work, and if we want in a chip shortage, I'd almost certainly be demanding that they replace it with something that makes a little bit more sense. Arguably, the Raspberry Pi Pico W with wireless makes more sense, or the stemma connector concept that Adafruit is now focusing on instead makes a lot more sense, where you have individual little circuit boards that have individual sensors on them, and then you just daisy chain them together with less of a thought of actually soldering things or wiring things together, instead just having a standard JST connector between them. So yeah, we're over the 300 gems here. The goal is to get to 1100. I don't know if we're going to make it to get to that. This is going to be the second festival, certainly, where I'm not going to make it all the way to the end, which definitely implies that festivals are just going to be harder now. But yeah, the program I was trying to make from scratch, I probably got 90%, 95% of the way there. Theoretically, all the code should work. It was just that last 10% of debugging and actually getting it to work, and then using the make code drag and drop programming with the Circuit Playground Express and make code in general, and in that Scratch programming language is just like a problem. Which is why even in the demo program for Password Vault, they immediately have you going to just standard text C, C++. I think it really is closer to C programming language for Arduino, and even at that, it's probably a stripped down version of C in MicroPython or CircuitPython. But no, it wouldn't really be Python programming. It was just C code, come to think of it. But yeah, I programmed it. I made some modifications. Had to make some modifications. The demo was wrong for a Circuit Playground Express. It hadn't been updated. It was programmed for, obviously, a Circuit Playground. The original Circuit Playground. So I had to reprogram it, relabel some things, make some tweaks, change it up a little bit. By default, you'd press one button, and that one button would have only given you one card or one password. I programmed it where it cycles between 3 different things. So it gives you a password, then it gives you an SHA 256 hash, and then it gives you an SHA 512 hash on the third one for the first 5 passwords. And then for the next 3 passwords, it gives you the certificate and the private key and the public key, or the certificate, the public key, then the private key of some, for like VPN websites or SSHing into servers. And then the second to last one gives you a Diffie-Hellman elliptical curve information, as much as I could make it. I don't think you can actually make a certificate with a Diffie-Hellman code. If there is a way to do that, I'd like people to inform me, because I looked up and down and it definitely feels like there's no way to do that. There is a way to use non-Diffie-Hellman codes in a certificate, but I think OpenSSL, or at least a version of OpenSSL I was using, doesn't really have any good curves in the ECDSA certificates, and this is all gibberish, I know, to most people. And then, like, finally, the last of the 10 codes, it gives you instructions when you click it the first time. Then it gives you the first part of what the code looks like, or almost what the code looks like. I made some slight changes and didn't update it. And then the second part is the second part of the code. And the device just acts as a USB keyboard. So in that, you don't have to you don't have to install any software or anything, and it will work on anything at all. Anything that can use a USB keyboard, at least. And so, yeah, you have this USB keyboard that has certificates and passwords, and there's a code on it to unlock it when you first start up, which is nice. The code is simplistic, and in all ways it is really just trading very high security for very low security. If someone gets the device, they could suddenly sit there and try different combinations of button taps on the capacitive pads. But it's not a terrible setup. It puts the Circuit Playground Express in a good position to just be done with it. And that's what I chose to do, instead of either playing Wolfenstein the Old Blood, which I really have screwed up on getting back to that, or Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I'll probably get more into that on the weekend, or playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Festival. And it really does wrap up a project, and I'm sadly wrapping up projects while also not really being able to replace those projects, and don't want to 100% abandon the idea of the whole makerspace projects, but at a certain level I'm also running out of ideas and running out of time and running out of ambition. I actually did a lot of physical, like, installation and non-nerdy YouTube stuff also around the past couple days, so I've actually been highly successful in accomplishing things, just not YouTube things, which that's not helpful. I did schedule the YouTube shorts for almost another 2 weeks. There was one day in which YouTube shorts didn't air, and now I'm scheduling them to come out a little bit earlier, and so far so good on that. It does seem like I might even want to go a little bit earlier than than the 9 a.m. I have it scheduled now. It really might make a lot of sense to just go 5 a.m., 6 a.m., something like that. But it just really comes down to what is an audience, what is the audience really on YouTube that looks at YouTube Shorts at all? Is it really just the algorithm that you're satisfying and no one else? Because it kind of feels like that's what it is. But if there is an actual human audience there, do they wake up in the morning and immediately look at YouTube Shorts? Or do they wait an hour or 2 or 3? I also ended up messing around with my guest censored for kids, filtered for kids internet access point, and it was saying that it didn't have internet connection, but in the long run, after spending several hours adjusting settings that probably didn't need to be changed at all, it very well may have just been like a false positive, and all I really needed to do is program in gstatic, gstatic.com, connectivity.gstatic.com, which is the internet checking website that YouTube and Google Apps use, and seemingly they increase their frequency on checking that if they can't connect. So I just needed to program that, like hard code the IP address on that one, because I imagine the family filtering DNS server that it's using is just blocking it. Which there's not really a great reason to do that. But once I did that, it started to work. Although it could also have been a case where it just takes it a little bit longer. It's just a little bit slower. At a certain point, my internet's not been super speedy lately, but it could definitely be because I'm like doing 5 things at once. But it could also be a case where just having so many Wi-Fi home connected devices is pushing it towards that next level where there's just too many devices all trying to connect at the same time. Although, I mean, that's just really going to come down to how much those devices really are connecting and how much those devices really are doing anything. Because the smoke detectors, at least, were definitely going for a low power, low battery usage thing. And so, yeah, it would really just come down to the light bulbs and the thermostat, because that's all I've otherwise installed. But it may very well just be a case where there's too much in general, just too many devices in general. And certainly some devices could stop trying to connect to the internet, but no device really is going to make that option for themselves. And they're not going to make that decision. Let's see, is there anything else I could do? I guess theoretically, since I'm getting projects done, it is going to leave me with less options as far as other things to distract myself with, but I still have plenty of things that I can distract myself with if I'm just not in the mood to make videos. Suffice it to say, I definitely do want to re-emphasize, though, I would not recommend any stemma group or anything like that going with the Circuit Playground Express, or trying to teach your kids from the Circuit Playground Express, even if they're super young. There's probably better systems with like the snap circuits that are more electronical, or you probably should just immediately start with the cheaper Raspberry Pi Pico, and Pico W is probably your better bet on that case too. And then hard wiring or connecting anything to that as far as inputs and outputs. Or you go with something that is stemified, like one of the more modern feather boards. But at the moment, I don't know if you really should do any of that. It might be very much better to just simply it might be much better to simply have a computer or a Chromebook and just learn Python. In the long run, that probably is going to be your cheaper option, is to have a laptop or a Chromebook and just teach the programming aspects instead of the hardware aspects, because most of programming is going to be programming. It's not going to be connecting to a microprocessor or a device, and so you really are coming from a weird direction in the first place, just trying to have something physical when it wouldn't be worth it. I just printed out the code that I wrote, and it had a bunch of really long certificates in it, so that was like 40-50 pages on one-sided. If I had double printed it, it would have been about 20 pages. Just having the print font and margin set up right would have been helpful, but I almost got to the right size. But yeah, just going home with your program printed out would be cheaper than handing somebody a Raspberry Pi Pico. You're not going to spend $5 in paper and ink per kid. In a project like that, so I think I'm gonna lose here, but might be able to survive. Please. Lost some attack there to gain some attack here. Let's see, do I have anything else to talk about? No, I'm gonna try to really quickly do a project with a Raspberry Pi. One of the Raspberry Pi small boards. I forget what they're called, minis, I think. Not the Picos that are newer, that are the microcontroller ones, but the actual Linux operating system Raspberry Pi things. I'm going to try and do a captive portal setup real quick as an experiment. So I'm definitely leaning more in that direction of wanting to do things, but doing these projects. Yeah, and then I'm still being very frustrated by my Bluetooth deadbolt not working. I've reinstalled the whole app on the cell phone it should be working with, and let's see again if that works. But there's one that's on sale right now for $25 off. That being said, it still would be double the price of the one I bought, which arguably buying cheap is being proven to be a mistake, particularly in something that you are going to have to permanently install into a door. But yeah, it would half make sense to send it back, return it, and then instead replace it with a more expensive one, like the U-Tech U-Bolt is not working. This new one that's on sale on Slick Deals is a Eufy project, and yeah, the Eufy is probably a more recognizable name. That doesn't inherently mean that they're better by any means, but I mean, it really should just work, and I half wonder if it isn't just the cell phone that's the problem. But yeah, that's annoying, certainly. And then I bought a speakerphone, and then the speakerphone's not working out because it shuts off to save battery even if it's plugged in, and its audio quality may just not be as good as it really should be for an omnidirectional microphone. But yeah, it shuts off after 10 minutes if there's not a Bluetooth device anywhere, so as soon as everybody leaves the house it shuts off. Then you have to hold down the power button to turn it back on, which that's all fine and dandy on the battery saving side, but not too useful in the actual using of the device side. Like, inherently I made a mistake in not getting one that was just plugged in, wired, like instead of being portable and having a Bluetooth. But then there's also just a matter of maybe I should have read the reviews a little bit more, been more cautious. Suffice it to say, this year's Amazon Prime included a lot less purchasing and a lot of canceling of things. Even like I would buy something and then I'd get something better and I'd just cancel the things. And now we're on the back end of it, and I'm thinking some of the stuff probably should even be sent back. And that will definitely reflect my mentality and thought pattern as far as next year. A lot of things too just were not on sale, so there's still several things I need to buy that there's not really a good reason to buy them quite at the moment. One thing in particular I need to buy before winter because it's seasonal based, but other things like a new server rack are highly unlikely to significantly change in price ever, and so there's no reason to buy it until I'm really ready to deal with it, which there's other heavy furniture moving stuff that I need to do first. Alright, that's probably more than enough catch up for today. Yeah, these catch up sections definitely are just me rambling too. There's no bones about it. It is just, hey, this whole stream is only being done because YouTube really wanted people to stream. If anything, YouTube's desire to force people to become streamers and compete against Twitch really shows how little YouTube will reward you, or the algorithm will reward you for doing what they um, what they want. Because I've been streaming for years and it's only minimally added watch time or minimally added subscribers, and it is fairly infrequent when you actually get even a single like, it's fairly infrequent when I get even a single person on the chat. Let's see, 2 more same levels on the field. You can special summon this card from your hand. Wouldn't that be then this? Same level. That's a 1, that's a 1. So why can't I special summon that? I don't know. And this is basically the only card that special summons to get that daily quest done. But yeah, at a certain level, it does kind of feel like you could potentially consider giving up on the streaming aspect, which at a certain point that might make sense. If I got really bored of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, or if there was just not that much enthusiasm around it, which I still feel like it deserves more time before I would make a decision like that, but frankly I think it is kind of popular. I could see really reducing the amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel or just stop playing it completely if I got bored with it, and then these streams could be just video game news, arguably maybe not even just video game news, but there is certainly also an aspect to just talking, even if it is just shouting in the void and being heard by no one. There is something to actually just talking about life in general, or what's going on with my YouTube channel in general, and the just chatting aspect of it compared to being a video game critic and really trying to criticize the games when I'm doing pre-recorded footage. But one certainly suffers because of the other. If I was not streaming and just chatting on the streams, I would have more points at which my voice was not worn out and more energy in general to play and make more pre-recorded footage. And I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed here, looking at news that is just going to be repeated. That there is a real question there. Do I need to look at the Twitter feed at the beginning of a stream? And I don't think I actually do. If anything, I need to just make a marker in my mind as far as all of that. Banish that card. Yeah. Apparently, Raven Software says they're aware of an issue causing unintentional change to Caldera's lighting. A fix is being investigated. They're doing bug tracking on Trello, which is, I think, a lesser used bug tracking software, but not so lesser used that it's odd. Let's see. First bit of news: Video Games Chronicles stories here. Ubisoft has denied claims it's planning to cancel Roller Champions. The company says it has exciting stuff planned for the next seasons. Jeff Grubb has been quoted as offhandedly, he claims now offhandedly claiming that the game was going to be canceled, and in the Bombcast, which I did listen to, and again has like 4 new class characters and nobody else. It's just nobody that you recognize, nor anybody of any real interest. But yeah, he says he offhandedly speculated aloud that Roller Champions was going to be canceled after season 3, and then he was used as the source, which I think in part points out how Jeff Grubb in his little Grub Snacks or whatever it's called, or Giant Bomb Morning Mess or whatever it's called now, his offhanded just chatting style again is not acceptable when you're also presenting things as news, because he definitely is trying to present himself as the source for news and needs to always try and maintain credibility and accuracy in everything he says, or at least in that same videos and those same presentations, or at least make it extremely clear when you're speculating. Offhanded comments in news reporting is pretty bad, and it really does go to show that as much as Giant Bomb may want Jeff Grubb to be the new Jason Schreier, I think Jason Schreier actually has a little bit more of skill in actually reporting things that can be verified by several sources and confirmed, and just doing your due diligence. And even at that, Jason Schreier is not 100% beloved. A Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 beta code drop is coming next week, according to Video Games Chronicles. What time does the Multiversus beta go live? That's probably a tagged one. Jurassic World started life as a sequel to the flawed Jurassic Park game Trespasser, which, if that's the case, then that would be it might be a case where the game has been in development for way too long, and that this Jurassic World game is actually going to be pretty bad. Because if this is what Trespasser looks like here, you're talking GoldenEye 64 era low polygon visuals, decades or 2 worth of programming difference there. Yeah, Trespasser came out in 1998 and served as a sequel to the second Jurassic Park movie, The Lost World. So why you would even want to do a sequel to a flop game that I've never even heard of is weird, but it may very well have just been that was an early conversation that might have brought Steven Spielberg to the table. Steven Spielberg may remember Trespasser or being involved with Trespasser a long time ago and not realize how fast things move, particularly when you look at like Hollywood movie sequels, like new Ghostbusters movies for decades later definitely do make a lot more sense than new sequels or remakes of games from the same era. Also, like Ghostbusters 2, kind of a flop, and nostalgia certainly plays a lot more of a role in movies than it does video games as far as whether people remember that movies were flops or not. So yeah, I would have to assume that there was just either they had the copyright for the name Trespasser still, or there was just general early alpha talk about, hey, how is this game gonna make, or how's this game gonna be. Let's see, Capcom says it's on track for a 10th straight year of growth despite recent dip. The company's net sales went down 47.9% year over year in the last quarter, which it says was due to Resident Evil Village comparisons. So, yep, Capcom painting a rosy picture, which it's nice to see that any company can paint a rosy picture as far as financials, particularly when you have the ridiculous general accepted accounting procedures that are now standard and that are basically just lies. And you have a ridiculous demand that every quarter there be more and more sales, which the only way you're going to manage to have every quarter be more profitable is to have the value of the dollar lower and lower. So a dollar this month is worth less than a dollar next month, which at a certain point maybe these big corporations are pushing for the value of the dollar to drop just for that reason, even though that would hurt everyone else involved, everyone else in the world, even if they're not involved. Let's see. Let's play this. This is yet another deck that has just too many activations, which at a certain point it would just kind of, I think, make more sense to save yourself some times. Just save yourself some time with all these decks and turn off activations, or say automatically activate things at the beginning. Card placement for this deck is perfectly fine. Automatic card placement is fine. But yeah, if there was like a 5-second timer or a 10-15 second timer when it pops up, do you want to respond? That could speed up the game a little bit more. Moving on with the news. Returnal's PC listing has been updated to show Steam Deck support, and as yet unannounced support has received frequent updates this month. Really? Has Returnal not announced that it's coming to PC? I thought it did. Definitely felt like it had already announced that it had been announced, but whatever. It's fairly obvious that Returnal probably is coming to PC. I would baselessly speculate on that. I don't know if it's going to really matter that much that it comes to PC, or that that's going to bring a significantly large amount of people to go back and play Returnal, because Returnal definitely feels like it is a kind of niche game that was a flash in the pan, talked about a lot, but very much does not feel like it has that much going on for it otherwise. Like, I just don't think I'd personally ever want to play Returnal. It looks like it's just too difficult for too little reward as a roguelike. Having multiple endings that are only slightly different. Let's see, 4 WWE 2K games have been removed from Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation digital stores. 2K Sports has delisted 2K17 through 20 this month without warning, which arguably maybe that would be the better way to do these things. So only WWE 2K22 and 2K Battlegrounds are left on Steam, meaning all other WWE 2K games have been delisted. I wonder how much of this might have to do with Vince McMahon paying lots and lots of hush money to hide affairs that he's having with other colleagues, and maybe they just couldn't update the games or wouldn't want to update the games to remove Vince McMahon. But I still suspect Vince McMahon is in Battlegrounds and WWE 2K22, but I could certainly see a decision being made fairly quickly to say, hey, let's just get rid of this because this is too hot and this is too controversial for these old games, and we don't care about the old games anyways. Or it could have nothing to do with Vince McMahon or Triple H taking over, and it could simply be 2K just being unwilling to support old games. Although, arguably, I think there is also an aspect here to consider. They may finally, 2K may have finally decided to get rid of these WWE games because they realized they were not good. And just getting rid of the bad versions of games to push people to play the good versions of the games might be their desire. It might be straight out of a sense of shame instead of a sense of greed or hiding something. At the end of the day, nobody's going to forget that Vince McMahon is the sleazy guy that he pretended to be a character of. And he probably did exaggerate some of this stuff, but for the most part, what I've heard about him does really imply that he's not too far off from his crazy character he plays. Not that I have any inside knowledge of by any means. So yeah, nobody's gonna forget about that, but also nobody's gonna care in the wrestling video games. Anyway, so they're not gonna care that he's removed or that the games are, they're not going to be care that the games are removed because of him, if he is because of him. I wouldn't be surprised if it also isn't just music license problems, which if I was in charge of WWE, I would definitely either get much longer music licensing for the songs, the intro songs that are being used, or I would have all intro songs be like custom made. It wouldn't be insane to have in-house orchestra, in-house bands, probably not an orchestra, probably an in-house band that is composing every single intro song for every single wrestler, and then owning the rights to that and selling soundtracks of that song and cutting out any middlemen. Because I can't imagine WWE is making that much money, relatively speaking, by getting in promoting specific songs. There definitely is a aspect, certainly on the intro songs, if that is the problem with the games, and that's why they were removed. As far as WWE's, like when Edge came in, and this is like decades ago, his intro song, the "You Think You Know Me" song, I think that was Edge, or maybe that was Triple H, I don't remember. That song is very noticeable. Or when Vince McMahon came in and the No Chance song came in, played as an intro song, that was very memorable. Or Stone Cold Steve Austin's Glass Smashing song is very memorable. All those songs, though, to my knowledge, are not connected to any actual song that anybody actually listens to. There probably is some medium-sized to even slightly large bands that were composing those songs, but they're not recognizable at all. You hardly have the likes of like Billie Eilish songs being the intro songs of wrestlers, which you'd think you would have something like that, or you don't have any like classic songs, classic rock or heavy metal, things that would be fairly recognizable, because the intro songs need to be fairly quick too, so you're only going to get 2 or 3 bars of the song in the first place, which is a lot easier to do than you think, because most songs are way too long by modern standards, and getting just 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds of the song is all you really need, and the best 10, 20, 30 seconds of a song. There are many songs I've listened to where it's like, alright, this first half of this song is great, but then the next 2 minutes of this song goes nowhere, and it doesn't really resolve it because they changed things up. Activating this spell doesn't really do anything for me. But yeah, imagine if I was in charge of WWE, I would change a lot up, and maybe people would like it, maybe they wouldn't. I would definitely have to rethink how the whole service would be done. It's certainly getting wrecked with not having live shows and having to socially isolate, and it's constantly getting wrecked by smaller shows willing to go crazier and do crazier, more dangerous things, and competition and just internal problems. I think the main thing you would want to do with WWE is just clean up the management, clean up the middle thing, get better writers that actually have ideas that are good, and stick to the ideas a lot more as far as giving plot lines and characters. I think we'd look to liberally steal and borrow from plot lines in books and movies and TV. Like the idea that there really hasn't ever been like a Romeo and Juliet type narrative that went very far is kind of silly. And I don't watch enough wrestling, so there may very well have been a WWE plot where one faction versus the other faction were like fighting each other, and then there's a Romeo and Juliet thing. Although I don't know how you do the Romeo and Juliet thing without also them tragically dying, and I don't know what the wrestling equivalent of tragically dying happens. Well, no, you do. What you would do is you would have at WrestleMania one of them literally laying down for the other, and so this would have to introduce probably either some intergender wrestling belt title match, or same-sex Romeo and Juliet for it to work, but you'd have one lay down for the other to um, to win, or one lay down to lose the belt so that they can be with someone that, with the Romeo laying down to lose the belt so that he can then join the other faction, and then the other one laying down to lose the belt. And so you could have this WrestleMania major events of 2 matches back to back, where the winners are the losers, and then the belts change hands. And yeah, you could certainly like steal those kinds of ideas and those kinds of plot lines, and instead of just kind of bizarrely doing the same things over and over again, or changing midstream on plot lines, because it's totally not going to work. But yeah, making a WWE a bit leaner, with management, rebalancing how people get paid, rebalancing how people get health care, and trying to find a kind of retirement feeder program a lot more. There is an aspect, certainly, I don't know why I'm talking about WWE, I guess I'm just rambling here. There's an aspect there, certainly, where you need to probably do some community outreach to have WWE like fund local gyms, where local tumble gyms, and have the people who are interested in wrestling go to like tumble gyms and learn some of the moves, and not actually do bumps and hit each other and collide with people, but you could certainly have them do rolls and jumps into foam pits, and have more of an emphasis there, whereas there are local tumble gyms, but if you just had posters of The Rock on the wall, you probably could advertise them. So I would definitely look to do some kind of acquisition there, to have something that the younger kids can feel involved. I know they sell the action figures, but that is not what kids really care about that much. They want to do the wrestling moves. They want to emulate it, so doing that in a somewhat safe way, in a pro health, pro exercise way, would be a way to get around that. Plus, the gyms could lead to the actual feeder league to get new wrestlers, which you constantly need new wrestlers. I would definitely try to make the wrestlers full-time employees and expect more out of them because of it. I would definitely try to get wrestling to try to be a bit more mainstream. Right now, a lot of wrestlers are ending up in TV shows and movies, and that's worked for The Rock and The Big Show, and that's about it. Like, the top characters, yes, but the rest, no. I would definitely investigate like bringing back Jim Ross, the announcer, Texas guy. If not bringing him back because he's too old, bringing in somebody who is more interesting as announcers. But yeah, I need to stop rambling about what I would do in a theoretical world if I was in charge of WWE. I don't even watch wrestling, so I don't know why all of a sudden I have so much opinions around it. Let's see. Multiverse's first open beta update has nerfed Taz a spin and adds LeBron James. They speculated that was going to happen. Video Games Chronicles. Dark Souls 3 PC could be coming back online after 6 months, an update suggests. The servers for all 3 Dark Souls games have been offline for months. Remember, there was this like hacking bug that also was going to affect Elden Ring, and so they opted to really only focus on fixing Elden Ring and then just abandoning the server for half a year on all of the other Dark Souls games, which inherently they probably saw that as a smart strategic move because it allows them to get more sales on Elden Ring, and it probably did get them a few more sales, unfortunately. Whereas the right response for consumers would have been to say, no, we're going to boycott Elden Ring, despite the major hype around it, because this is showing how, I think it's Capcom that runs the Dark Souls games. It's Bandai Namco. Actually, it's showing how Bandai Namco is not supporting their old games, so why play, why play their new game when it may be abandoned too, as soon as there's network troubles. Moving on, a Nier Automata player claims they've discovered the secret areas 5 years after release, but the community chat can't replicate the discovery, fueling the mystery. I saw a picture of it, and it definitely felt like it was more of a glitch than something else. Let's see. There's some kind of church. That somebody has managed to glitch in. The creator Yoko Taro had previously stated that all the mysteries in the games had been solved, leading many to speculate that this area was never intended to be found and has been removed in subsequent versions. It's been speculated that users playing on version 1.0 by members of the community attempting to uncover the mystery. The modding scene for Nier is incredibly advanced, especially not to the point of reintroducing old content into a new area while integrating it into the game. Yeah, it sounds like a glitch. It could also be very much a hoax. Somebody made a modded version or made a completely different program that just looks like Nier. Or it could just be internet rumor. And suffice to say, it didn't seem like there was anything really too interesting that you could do or see in there, so if it was supposed to be some secret that had been found, it's a very bad secret. And Sony has revealed that PlayStation's VR2's broadcasting option, see-through view, and more. VR and cinematic modes are also detailed. So see-through view is something I think all VR games are going to need, with like cameras on the front so you can actually see around you. Broadcasting to like record and stream, also definitely something that would be fairly useful. It doesn't look like the see-through view though is in color, which makes a lot of sense because you really wouldn't have a color camera if it's just trying to do depth perception. You'd want a more high contrast, high pixel black and white depiction. See, in cinematic mode, players can view the PlayStation 5 and UI and all non-VR game and media content on a virtual cinema scene. This looks a little bit more in color. But even watching this video though, let's look at how bad this really is as far as getting edge detection. It's not terrible, but there are definitely gaps. There are definitely encounters. Give it 10 years and this kind of edge detection would be a lot more accurate. or should be a lot more accurate. And it does, I think, really show that there are problems with VR, that the PlayStation VR 2 is just now giving you these features that really should have been available day one. Apparently a Diablo Immortal Battle Pass bug is reportedly costing players millions of XP. Users are continuing to encounter the bug despite Blizzard releasing a hotfix for the issue. I don't know why anybody's playing Diablo Immortal in the first place, though. I mean, obviously for some people, they just have no self-control, and they just cannot stop themselves from playing even bad games. And I think, if anything, that really shows why there should be restrictions on advertising and in-app purchases. Apparently, the Multiversus beta is now available for Americas, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, according to Video Games Chronicles. I don't know why you'd really want to play. The Multiversus beta, though. Wait till it's done. The Meta Quest 2 is getting a $100 price increase in August, which I don't feel like the Facebook Quest 2 or the Meta Quest 2 accessories and refurbished units will also cost more. They're basically just raising the price to raise the price, is the speculation. I don't know why you'd specifically want this, though. Like, why not just get the Vive, particularly if the price is going up? They're really trying to trick you into buying the mid-tier VR or the low-tier VR when you would be better off saving it up for a Vive, which are going to be more expensive, certainly, but better in the long run. I just don't think giving money to Facebook is ever a smart idea. Xbox has closed its fiscal year with a record annual revenue, which it's kind of crazy in this economy that anybody is succeeding at all financially. Right. $1,500. Just end the turn here, I guess. This would let me special summon something, so I do want to play this before I die. Apparently 140,000 concurrent players on Steam did want to play the Multiversus open beta, which I guess does say that it might be a very popular game, or it might just be that there's 140,000 people at the same time that all want to get that early access to potentially they potentially want to be better at the game as quick as possible in case there is ever a esports scene to it. That was a waste. And banishing that card actually triggered something, so I think the idea here that I'm not learning is I should have banished this card. Banished one of my own cards. Also, I should have used Monster Reborn first. The Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake has reportedly been delayed indefinitely. The game's design director and art director were recently fired, which the phrase firing is not used very often, but that definitely would imply to me that it is in trouble. At a certain point, though, this may be in a aspect where the game designer and art director may have been fired for good reason, and this might be a case of cleaning up the problem elements of the video game industry. This is baseless speculation on my part. It may very well have nothing to do with that. There's a higher chance it didn't. But Brad Prince and Jason Miner both being let go at the same time does kind of imply that there's, unless there was a specific incident that happened that involved both of them at the same time, it would imply that they were just fired because they weren't getting where they wanted to go as far as the progress. Or the project was just in some other ways struggling. I guess we'll need more details to really find out. Multiversus is Warner Brothers' biggest Steam release by far. The free-to-play fighter peak users eclipsed that of previous Warner Brother titles, which I'd like to see a list here as far as I guess Apex Legends is Warner Brothers. Are they not including the Lego games, or are they only talking about concurrent players? Peak record concurrent gameplay of Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is 82,000, so they are including the Lego games. The thing I think you would want to notice from this, though, is that not a lot of these games really require you to be online at the same time or playing against other people. Like Back 4 Blood does. This is a single player game, this is a single player game, this is multiplayer, this is single, multiplayer, multiplayer. And those numbers by the 10th slot are incredibly small. I also think they don't really tend to put out Warner Brother games on Steam as the platform of choice or the first at the same time. It is kind of ironic that one of the biggest titles to have concurrent players, which would be Arkham Knight, is also one of the worst games ever to be released on Steam and poorly supported on Steam. So they may very well, Warner Bros. May just not have very good they may very well just not be very good at releasing games or have good advertising towards games on Steam. Warner Brothers in general, in the middle of their whole merger, probably Warner Brothers games should be split and run by a smaller organization that can just focus on video games instead of just being a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary. Because it definitely feels like there have been several times where they've just made Warner Brothers games because they're Warner Brothers, based off Warner Brothers properties, just because they're Warner Brothers properties, and that they haven't really cared about doing quality. Like arguably the Arkham Asylum series might have been a better series if it wasn't a Batman series. Because when you get to that sequel and the sequel after that sequel, once you get to Arkham City and Arkham Knight, you're really having to lean heavily on Joker and Batman more than you really should have to. Moving on, the Multiverse's free character rotation has been explained amid player confusion. Warner Brother reveals how long fighters are free before they're swapped out, which this should be a one-sentence explanation. So Finn, Garnet, Superman, and Rydo are all free at the moment. The roster of free characters will be changed out every 2 weeks, which inherently means that you have to pay for specific characters, which I think will either lend to a lot of characters that are bad not being ever played or purchased, or just a ridiculous amount of microtransactions. It doesn't really feel like there's any way to earn the characters and unlock the characters. I just don't know why you would want to do that. It is free to play, so I could see. Okay, it does say locked characters can be permanently unlocked with coins which are earned in-game, or with Gleamium, a premium currency which has to be bought with real money. Each character has a different price in coins, but they all cost $7. So, yeah. As they're constantly adding more characters, the game is going to get even more expensive. There's also a Founders Pack that includes a number of character unlock tokens, which instantly unlock characters. But just look at the numbers here as far as the lineup. You've got 17 characters right now. 17 times 7. You're already well into the $80s, $90 just to unlock the characters. And I believe the story was it was somewhere around $250 to unlock everything in the game. Just a really high amount. And yeah, at a certain point I just don't know why anybody would ever want to play a free-to-play game when it has become so blatantly obvious that it's more expensive to play a premium game than it is to play a it's more expensive to play a free-to-play game than it is to play a regular game. If this somehow wins, I will be shocked. Just activating as many abilities as possible. You really have to start to remember what cards you played to keep this cycle going up. Alright, activate this. Activate this. Activate this one, I think. Guess we'll banish this card, I guess. Summon that. Activate that. Which I guess we'll send that one back. And send that. Alright. And I've forgotten what this card was. So, just out of safety, I'll attack with that, which doing all that did nothing for me. Whole lot of effort for no reward. And yeah, you're getting points, and some of these points sometimes lead to a reward, but you actually have to play fairly well to even get that to happen. I definitely feel like unless I get a couple of quick disconnects, and I really would need like 3 or 4, by the end of this stream, I just will not be to where I should be, or where I want to be. Let's see, Video Games Chronicles, we still have about 10 articles. A lot of news today. And again, I started late today. My sleep schedule's messed up again. Although I am getting things done, so maybe this is the right sleep schedule for me. Updated Hogwarts Legacy art book details could hint at the game's release date. I guess you could check out this article for speculation on speculation. Although, really, you could just wait until an actual release date happens. See, massively different amount of rewards. You get actual rewards here versus points that lead to rewards based on whether you win or lose. Yeah, I would need about 3 more quick disconnects. And honestly, if I get over 1100, there's very little reason, I think, to just continue playing. We should try to get the special summons up. We could look at the decks and see if there's something else that could increase the special summons, but that's about the only thing left to do, is to get that 50 gold, 50 gems from special summon. Let's see. The Sony has officially confirmed August PlayStation Plus games. This article's been updated, which, okay. Guess that's Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon and Little Nightmares. A Switch Sports Data Mine has revealed its upcoming unlockable costumes, which, okay. This looks like either high fashions from the Splatoon kids or some other similar art style, and then just a soccer helmet thing. Nothing particularly that special there. If anything, it kind of breaks the art style that they were going with these characters when you start to get to crazy punk styles. But if anything, I think that might very much imply where they thought this game was going to be and the state that the game was released in originally, because I do think that there's a very high chance that the Switch Sports game was half finished. All of a sudden, having costumes in different settings makes the game feel more fleshed out, when even if you are actively not really adding anything to the actual gameplay mechanics. Let's see. GTA 6 will apparently take place in Miami and feature a female protagonist. It's claimed the game is said to be at least 2 years away. I highly suspect if it's going to feature a female protagonist, then there will also be a male option of the female. Like, it is probably stereotyping unfairly GTA players, but I just don't know if that is the audience that's going to embrace wokeness, particularly to the point of wanting to play as a female protagonist. But I could very well be proven wrong. At the end of the day, any character in GTA is going to be a piece of trash. And so there is going to be this danger of there being 5 previous GTA games with guys that are pieces of trash, and then all of a sudden there's going to be complaints about how the female protagonist is depicted as a piece of trash, as a criminal, when that's all the characters. They've managed to not have that complaint too much with the African American characters in GTA, but there was some slight articles around that, certainly. And you know GTA is going to be attacked. It could also be that it goes the opposite direction, and then she isn't a piece of trash, and then it becomes a question as to why is she even there then? Like, why would you be playing as a protagonist that which one of these have I not summoned before? Why would you play as a protagonist in the GTA series if they weren't a criminal? And see if they try to go the mushy middle ground, that's going to be weird. Or if she's a criminal with a heart of gold, or she's being forced into doing bad things. They've already been in Miami before. Does definitely feel like the GTA series likes to jump between Miami and California and LA and not anywhere else, which at a certain point you would be making a fairly different game if you tried to make a Grand Theft Auto game in the middle of like North Dakota or something, where there's very few people and the cars probably aren't that good, and then there's not that many other options. How much of GTA really is stealing cars and committing crimes, and how much of it is paragliding and doing wacky zany stunts is another question, because if you're in a flat city that you can't do those wacky stunts. In a lot of ways, this may very well just be an article that's been leaked out to take interest or take oxygen out of the room, as far as the fact that they recently announced that they're going to stop working on remasters to fully focus on GTA 6. So now they've put out their own excuse, effectively, to say, well, we're working on GTA 6, that's why there's no remasters, and that's why we're not fixing the remasters as fast as we should be, or why we're not fixing the remasters at all. EA has described FIFA 23's new gameplay features in more detail. Check out that article at Video Games Chronicles if you're interested. I'm not. Gran Turismo 7 updates includes a new Nissan Skyline Super Silhouette Group 584, which I guess is this car. You're really getting into that, unless it's all these cars. Like, you're really getting into the weeds at that point when you're naming actual cars. We already we just talked about the PlayStation Plus game, so we don't need to cover that again. The Pokemon Center pop-up store will return to London in August. If you're in London, Video Games Chronicles is a European store, so a European website, so that's why they are focusing on London. Apparently, PlayStation Plus is adding 8 Yakuza games in 2022, which is a lot. Half will arrive in August, including 3 for PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium members. Let's see. Guess we'll go ahead and tribute a couple things. You can see how this timer is just getting smaller and smaller, and I'm running out of time. And this isn't the first time with this deck, since so much is happening, that I've started to run out of time. It's just so much to activate. Really didn't need that. I feel like for an animation here, as soon as it starts to count, notice how it gave me about 60 more seconds. I feel like as soon as it starts to count, that should be the point where you get a bit of an animation for a second. So instead of it really being 300 seconds, it would actually be 600 seconds, because there'd be like half a second animation when it starts to count and half a second animation when it stops counting and flips over. There's kind of nothing happening here, so it's very easy to not recognize that it is your turn, and this little glow is supposed to tell you that, certainly, and bring your eyes downward, and I get the idea. I just don't know if that works as well as it should. Really feels like I've been streaming for 2 hours, but it's barely been an hour and a half. Yeah, and oddly, I don't know if this Call of the Grave as a card even matters. Doesn't really seem like it's doing anything. So there might just be an argument here to activate spells and activate traps just because, and then finish the experience. Plus, if I activate this now, I can do this and get rid of it so I can move faster. Video Games Chronicles says Tower of Fantasy's global release date has been confirmed. The open world RPG is coming to PC and mobile next month. It's the August 10th, 5 p.m. Pacific time, which not sure I've seen anything about this game. Yep. Let's see if we can jump around. Definitely feels like it's kind of sci-fi space, fantasy robot fighting. Not really seeing a lot. It says it's open world, which is an interesting thought, considering what it showed wasn't really that open world. I got 115 seconds here. I'm just gonna lose my timeout if I'm not careful. Turn 2 cards to the deck. Down to 90 seconds. Apparently Xbox says Phil Spencer's most anticipated game is God of War Ragnarok. The PlayStation exclusive will be released in November. I didn't realize it was a PlayStation exclusive. It's probably not wrong for Phil Spencer to say the most anticipated game for him at the moment is God of War Ragnarok. I haven't really heard a lot from Phil Spencer. I can't help but suspect that he is getting a little bit busier these days as more and more companies are now owned by Microsoft and are about to own even more. And they may very well be at a point where either he's not going to be in charge at some point and he'll just retire or be promoted, or he will stay in charge and he'll just be very busy. I wouldn't be surprised if he does actually stay in charge and is just very busy. I haven't listened to his podcast that he was on lately, but I do know several months ago they started to introduce a new kind of third wheel female on the podcast, and it definitely feels like this new third wheel female, which that's an unfair way to describe her, certainly. She seems to be also being set up as the new protege of Phil Spencer to maybe take over and take charge. Let's see. Well, set that again and attack. We're back up to 140 seconds. Now we've got the Gamatsu articles. Tactics Ogre Reborn has some info, description, screenshots, and release date appearing on the PlayStation Store price tracker. Idol Janshi Suchi Pai Saturn Tribute has been announced for the Switch, which just definitely looks like kind of an older style animation with some chibi anime characters on the side there. What is this game though? Feels like it's tagged as a board game adventure game, and it feels like it's very much a collaboration of old, like Sega Saturn, maybe maybe some of the other more Japanese consoles. Yeah, this definitely does not feel like animations that have happened in the past couple decades as far as anime. If anything, yeah, there's definitely some Mahjong in here. Old Mahjong games. This really goes to highlight also what looks like anime today is not really what was anime 20, 30 years ago. Whereas what looks like cartoons from the West today are not too different from what they looked like 20, 30 years ago. Although, even that's not really true at this point. Like, almost everything now, as far as cartoons, either has a more anime-inspired style or is CGI. Low frame resolution G.I. Joe cartoons are not done anymore. I'm trying to think of what that console was. Well, it does say these were all originally released for the Sega Saturn, so they weren't that PC Game Engine console, I think is what it was called. Which really wasn't even a PC. It's much closer to a video game console than a PC. Just sold itself as a PC. We've got more info as far as Alice Gear Aegis, which I will say at least this animation looks slightly better than the previous images we'd seen, but only slightly. It still feels kind of low polygon and low effort. Really, you just want it to end at this point when you've got a game that just goes this long. It's ridiculous. Like, there's a way I certainly could win here. But I don't think it's gonna happen. This is gonna resolve and return cards to my hand. Just bring everything back to the field. Special summon just because. Then this. Then this. Then this. This. And this. Activate effects just because. And end the turn. Activating that effect just has you draw 2 cards in the next turn, but yeah, unless he sends all of these back and does not attack because he's afraid of a trap, which he did. Okay, just dragging the game out. Moving on, Master says Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak expansion title update. First look at Lucent Nargacuga. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. They have a first look at the gameplay if you want to check that out. Fairy Fencer F Refrain Court as a Tiara and Q trailer, which is, I guess, showing off a couple of characters. I think that's a fighting game, right? Strategy RPG game. Interesting. Not sure I've seen enough information about that. Lord of the Rings Golem has been delayed by a few months. We had already talked about that in the last stream. Also, Boo Indie Showcase 2022 is set for July 30th. This is a Japanese independent game creator community, which for a brief moment there did seem to be some increase in interest in indie games being developed in Japan, or the promotion or the support of indie game developers in Japan. I'm not sure that the interest is still there or if it's grown quite fast enough that seeing that Asabu event might lead give me some more information as far as how well that's going to be supported. Also, it's almost certainly another case where it is taking place amid pandemics or trying to get around pandemics and lockdowns. So seems like events are going forward, but yeah, I don't know how well attended they are becoming. Let's see. Glaciered has been announced for PC, a sci-fi action game set on a glacier covered Earth, which, okay, interesting idea. You see a lot of blue, a lot of kind of ice characters. I feel like if you're playing as animals and it's all blue because there's a glacier all over all of the Earth, which basically means all of the Earth is flooded, which also brings about the question as to where that extra water came from. Sure, the Earth is 80-90% water, but if you start freezing it into a glacier, that water becomes more compact, not less compact. So you would have to be, it's taking place in the oceans of a glacier-covered Earth, and then the land parts of Earth are just covered in snow, or maybe not even snow. But what you would want to see is more color, and if you're playing as an animal, there's really no reason why you couldn't see with different colors. As a general concept, an underwater game is probably not that great of an idea in the first place. And it's not the most strong of concepts. It definitely feels like what you would do is you would have a and it feels like you're just flying underwater, really, which that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're just kind of underwater bird. "65 million years after mankind," it says, which that definitely goes to say that you're not going to see any humans, and you're just doing underwater combat and hack and slashing. It does just feel like there should be more of a gameplay concept there. There you go. I defeated his strategy, and with defeating his strategy, he surrendered. Which we are getting close now. If I got just one quick disconnect and one victory, or two quick disconnects, I'd be done. And then we just have to make sure we special summoned as many things as we could. Let's see. Gamaster has the Tap Tap Presents 2022 Showcase Announcement Recap, which was Captain Tsubasa Ace, Etheria Restart, which certainly this game, with the angle and the amount of belly showing, catches my eye. Go-Go Muffin, I don't think I even remember that one. Koi Remake, which I guess is just playing as a koi fish. Maybe some kind of platforming / puzzle game, playing as a koi fish. There might be something to that concept that makes sense, but probably not. Let's see, Spark Creative Edition, which oddly does seem like it's a combination of multiple things, so it feels like it's a almost programming software / Minecraft game. I think it's a programming software. Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, Anno Mutationium. I need to play. Need to play early. Duelists has a pre-registration trailer. The animation here looks nice, but it's limited, so I suspect this is more of a Diablo or even turn-based positional placement strategy game. Barbar Q. Seems like barbarians running around. Actually, it feels a little bit more like a Bomberman game. So, remember, all of these are supposed to be like mobile games first. That's the tap platform, I think, is just mobile, so this definitely feels like a mobile game, whereas several of these other games could be mobile / PC. We have a game called COA, which again, this looks good enough that it could be a PC game. Maybe a free-to-play PC game, but a PC game anyways. This Koa does look slightly interesting as a concept. Although a lot of these are targeting kind of more Asian markets, so that they also have this danger of looking very samey. You know, just activate this. Even though I know it's not going to do anything, let's just activate it. Get it out of your hand. Like this Eternal Evolution definitely looks like it's a more standard mobile game. Activate this. Destroy all spells and traps. What's funny is I have basically no cards. I can Monster Reborn that. Okay. Then we can activate this. We can activate this. We can activate this. Then we can activate this. We can summon this. And just straight up steal his card. See, at that point you might as well just surrender, because there's a low chance of him returning from that. Let's see, we have this Flash Party, Midsummer Party trailer, which is a Smash Brothers clone. And they're doing a special collab with Tap. Then Genshin Impact and Stardew Valley looking type game called Heartopia. Although maybe it's not farming so much as this is just dressing and decorating your house. Looks like there might be some fishing instead of farming. I'm not really seeing any. Let's see. Yeah, it definitely feels more like it is a city decorating game than a farming game, which that might work for me, certainly. As someone who doesn't like the farming aspects of Stardew Valley, getting past that, getting rid of that might work. Yep. Alright, so he surrendered. That does put us right within arm's reach. We only need 300 victory points. One victory would get us 500 victory points, or whatever they're called. So there is really room. Let's see, Naraka Blade Point Mobile, which I feel like there's a meta game called Naraka. This trailer not really showing you that much. I think Naraka is a fairly common Asian word, Japanese word. Neon Abyss Infinite. More of a platform shooter. Bullet hell game. Project Stars. Definitely a lot of these games we didn't see. Project Stars seems to be highly ambitious, particularly for a mobile game. I wonder if it's supposed to be an MMO type experience. Ragnarok M, Eternal Love. More of a standard hack and slash JRPG experience. Sword of Convaleria. Now inherently what's going to happen here, if I'm unlucky, is I'm going to look at all these trailers and try to get a general idea of what these games are. And then there's going to be a whole bunch of articles talking about each of these games individually. And I'll just end up saying, yeah, we already talked about that. This T3 Arena feels like it's trying to be a Overwatch on mobile slash Splatoon. Looks very colorful and kid friendly, and arguably maybe that is the right move. Certainly that Nerf game that came out should have been very successful and really pushed in that direction. But that didn't happen. The Nerf game was awful and then very quickly forgotten about. Even though I messed with my network settings, I think at this point I am confident that reinstalling OBS fixed that network problem. Like, unless it comes about this Friday that I start to have network trouble again, I have to kind of suspect that that problem was my computer, which means I should be slightly less irritated, only slightly less irritated with my ISP. I am starting to lean back towards the category of laziness, of just saying, you know what, let's just stick with this ISP. Although, even though it claims faster speeds, I don't feel like I'm really getting that much more faster speeds in day-to-day average usage. It definitely feels more like a case of you get faster speeds when you're speed testing, and maybe faster speeds when you're uploading or downloading from very specific sites, and that's it. Otherwise, it's the bottleneck seems to be somewhere else. Still fairly slow to load websites and go to a lot of places. Let's see, Torchlight Infinite release window trailer, which, yeah, this Torchlight game definitely does not feel like something that interests me. They really ruined the idea of Torchlight, probably even by the second game. Like, they made enough changes to it to get away from that gimmick. We have a game here called Unhappy Raccoon, which looks like it's a collection of anthropomorphic animals. I wouldn't inherently just call this a furry game, although it is kind of shocking that there aren't more entry-level, hey, here's a bunch of anthropomorphic games that may lead towards a new generation of furries. But yeah, we don't really see that in kids' entertainment anymore. They don't see the need or have a need to have anthropomorphic animals. What was that game? Like Cool Cats, Top Cats, or something like that. There's definitely a lot of Looney Tunes stuff like that. Whereas if you were to make Looney Tunes today, almost certainly every character would just be humanoid. Why wouldn't it be? If anything, the only reason they're anthropomorphic animals in the first place is because it was probably easier to draw Mickey Mouse than it would have been to draw a human. the absolute wrong one to have picked. Yeah, I really would have to question Unhappy Raccoon as a game. But at least it's visually different. And there's something to be said for that, at least. We may have a victory here. Like if all he can do is flip it face down, that's not that much. Activate this. Show this card to the opponent. Banish one of these, I guess. Summon this. Then go ahead and just activate this. Alright, well. Still going through games. Here we have one called Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves. Just looks kind of like a Nier Automata type game. More open world. You're definitely seeing these mobile games following after Genshin Impact as a concept and being much more open world. No longer is it standard or acceptable for the top tier games to just have a flat 2D map, world map that you're going from position to position in. Probably could have won this turn. Because what I could have done is I could have activated this ability, which would let me draw 2 cards on the next turn. Then I could have activated this, and I could have taken this out of the graveyard. Then I could have attacked with that. And wouldn't it be a nightmare if somehow they figured out a way to win from this distance? Let's see, what else do we have? Jaeger Hunter Legend. You can definitely see though that a lot of these games are basically the same ideas. Some form of JRPG. There's no variety here, no card games, no puzzle games. Nothing like that. It's just like, here's an open world JRPG that's in fighting dinosaurs. Here's a open world JRPG that's fighting robots. It's not very creative. Let's see. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed has a locations trailer, according to Komatsu's article. Check it out if you're interested. Prinny presents NIS Classics Volume 3 as a spotlight trailer of more of the classic NIS games. Not sure if any of those specifically even include a recognizable game to me. Nope, none of these characters look recognizable. A game called Slacation Paradise launches August 18th. Seemingly for everything. which says it's an action game. It really feels like it would be a zombie game of some sort. Top-down twin stick shooter with kind of wall tower defense elements. Yeah, it doesn't look particularly interesting, but we are at least getting a lot of new games to talk about today. A lot of news today, certainly. Let's see. Disneyland Dreamlight Valley has a gameplay overview trailer, which that would be very helpful because it does feel like Dreamlight Valley is just going to be a collection of mini games, and that may be good enough, certainly. Seems like you get some quests from people and you run around and get quests and have to do fishing. Seems like you might have to do quite a bit of fishing, some farming, some cooking, and looks like some decorating. Yeah, it definitely feels like one of these games that is actively trying not to have any violence in it, which I applaud the effort, but it definitely does feel like because of that there's not much action happening there, and I don't know what else you can add to that. You probably start to think about, hey, can you play poker or solitaire, go fish, play different kinds of mini games and card games like that, board games. It feels like there should be a pin collecting feature, certainly if you're in Disneyland, because there are these secret pins the pin collectors have for Disneyland. So I could see that being an aspect. Flip summon, summon using this. Take that and that. We've got plenty of time here, so we're not going to run out of time. Can activate this, and that should let me summon this. Then go ahead and banish that card. Summon this. Let's see, take one of these, I guess. But each one of those is like a normal summon, so like constantly normal summoning things. He's not going to get the quest done to special summon things. Alright, well, that's all we can do there. It really came down to the line. Part of the reason why I definitely didn't make as much progress here as I should have is the fact that I'm playing yet another cell phone game, and I really shouldn't be playing two cell phone games and this. So I would have to just have something that was really focused on special summoning at this point. So let's look at the loaner decks and see if we can find something. So it's obviously not going to be this. Let's just select this loaner deck, this blue, and try it. Let's see. Gamatsu says the PlayStation VR2 user experience early look, see-through, broadcasting, customized play. We had already talked about that, so we don't really need to talk about it again. Although I will point out that Gamatsu seems to have done a much better job of putting up pictures. Apparently Persona 3 and Persona 2 are Atlas fans' most wanted remakes according to a 2022 survey result, which seems odd that you would want a specific remake of Persona 3 when Persona 3 Golden already exists, and I thought that was the remake. Also kind of really shows how the Shin Megami Tensei series is at the bottom of the barrel, Etrian Odyssey series in general at the very bottom, Devil Summoner games being slightly better. And these are all somewhat in the same universe, Devil Summoner, Shin Megami Tensei, and Persona. Or I think more accurately, they're not in the same universe, they're in alternate universes that were all connected at some point, or just general ideas. Right. Special summon. Discard that card. And discard that card. And that's one special summon. We need 9 more. Okay, end the turn there. I don't really understand how the deck works, but all we need to do is special summon. Of course, I tossed a bunch of cards to special summon one thing. A game called Vesteria Saga 2, The Sacred Sword, has a first chapter playthrough. It looks like a kind of 8-bit RPG, tactical position placement game. A strategy game. Whatever it looks like, it does not look particularly good. Let's see. Fate/Extra Wadarko Exhibition off-screen trailer was apparently available if you want to watch a video of a TV showing a video. Seems like the more focus is just on these pictures, concept art, so definitely feels like Fate Extra is not very deep into development. Moving on, I need to hurry up here, otherwise this is going to become a long stream. Amnesia Memories and Amnesia Later X Crowd for Switch launched September 20th in the West. It's 2 Amnesia games. Are they visual novels? Yes, they are Young Maiden Otome visual novels. The Nintendo Switch Sports version 1.2 update is now available. New features for soccer, volleyball, multiplayer, and more. Famitsu has a review scores for issue 1756. Anonymous code getting 35 out of 40, which is pretty high. Whereas GCju, whatever this is, I've never even heard of it, it's 29 out of 40, it's just pretty low. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 3 getting 36 out of 40, which is really high, so yeah. I might benefit from doing some research into are the Xenoblade Chronicle games on Steam, and if so, are they all well received? Something I'd want to play. Let's look at some of the games that have come out on Steam. We have one here called Blood and Zombies, which is being marked as mostly positive. The danger here is this is on the fall list, so I may already have spotlighted this game, and I have no protection around that at all. Kart Tycoon, also on the fall list, and I don't know why. Like, this can't just be a fall list cleanup, because the next game we have here is Error 143, which is just a visual novel. Doesn't look particularly that interesting, although I will point out that it does look nice to have more dark-skinned characters as the default, or in general, instead of having usually visual novels either have no dark-skinned characters because they're typically Asian people anyways, or there's one dark-skinned character amongst a collection of a variety of other characters. Although that works too sometimes if you have a harem and each character is kind of uniquely different. This next game is tagged with nudity, called Dead Forest. Once again, I may have even talked about this game before, although how could I? It came out yesterday. You have fox-eared characters in a visual novel in a kind of more Western art style than Eastern, I would say. Or it's definitely a Western animator or a bad animator trying to ape Eastern art styles. And it's not in the adult section, and it's allowed to have an 18 plus patch. It's English and Russian in language, which I guess at a certain point I consider Russian games to be Western styled, when in all fairness the Russian people geographically should be considered Eastern more than Western, wherever you draw the line. I guess it's a matter of culture, and since the Russian people, I would say Mongolians are definitely Eastern, but an average Russian, I would say, are more Western. They embraced the West cultures and societies, or embraced their own cultures and societies enough that I wouldn't consider them Asian for sure. And I am fairly certain they try to make the argument out of both sides that they are both European and Asian and everything. Of course, Russia would love to conquer the world, and the Chinese, I imagine, would love to make the same argument to say that everybody is actually Asian all over the world. All humans are descent from Chinese or China, and thus it's only a return to normal, or it's only natural that China would rule the world. Moving on, we have a game here called Meta Shooter, which doesn't look like anything. We have a game called Japanese Tetris, which doesn't look like anything. We have Race League, which is mixed reviewed already, so we don't have to do anything there. A game called Sapiens, which I don't think there's quite enough polish or gameplay here to want to do that. Create your own prehistoric civilization. Yeah, I'm going to say no to that. And then it becomes a question, do I want to spotlight it? I probably do want to make a YouTube short around it. See, now I'm potentially going to get victories that'll just get me the packs, which I don't mind getting the packs, but I really am just trying to get that last 50 gems, which are more valuable. Tomorrow redo. This might be something, but it probably isn't, so I'm going to give this a follow, but no short. Plunge the Plunger. Looks like garbage. Fastest Fantasy Life Simulator. I'll give a follow and see if maybe people like that. I don't think so. Tribe War. Again, I'll give a follow. Yeah, they have the picture of a character that they don't own the rights to. Hopefully I didn't screw up here. Let's see, next we have a game called Bullet Quest, which looks like a tower defense garbage game. Here we have a Otome visual novel. I believe this is actually one to keep an eye out for. Taisho and Alice, Heads and Tails. That being said, it's not mild sexual language is as detailed as it gets. Now, in all fairness, there are some visual novels that don't even go that far, but I can't help but also wonder if this game was censored for the Steam release. I guess that deserves a short. It would be fairly unfair to actively not make YouTube shorts around visual novels. It'd also be fairly stupid to make a ton of them around visual novels. So we'll try to limit it to ones that look like they're actually big and fairly expensive in that. This Nio might be something. Catalyte 609 Feline Space Adventure. Might be something to this. One of the things that I think could benefit the YouTube shorts is if I am just a little bit ahead and then I only do the YouTube shorts say on a Friday and just have 10 to 14 ready to do every Friday. That might give me a little bit more time to look at some of these games, because I definitely know when I was going through the YouTube shorts that there were some games that immediately got reviewed, immediately got played, and immediately were mixed reviewed or negatively reviewed. So in that, it would make a lot of sense to even have a week of time. I, by the way, still have not updated the adult content aspect. So, if there are any adult games that came out over the past couple days, which there probably are, that will be something that I'll have to keep an eye out for. This game did come out before, and I guess maybe they just said coming soon, and then a day later said it's out, which seems kind of silly. Road Draftsman doesn't look good. I have about 30 more games to go through. And that didn't work. This game Capitals. Looks not visually polished enough. There's a game I played that was somewhat similar to that at one point a long time ago, but it's not the same game. It just looks similar. Right. Discard, banish 10 cards to give me darn it, every time. This guy is wrecking me. Let's see, we have a game called Insurrection Cyborg's Awakening. This game might be a little too neon as a beat 'em up. See, I really don't have time to watch videos either. I'll give that a follow, but it doesn't need to be spotlight. I feel like I am just going to end up using the phrase spotlighting to mean two different things going forward too. The YouTube Shorts aspect or idea as a phrase is just more confusing. Junkyard Truck here is mixed reviewed already. Nothing in that game. A Candy Crush clone on Steam for $20. I would have to say probably no. But I'll give it a follow just to think about it. I guess inherently the question is, should anybody really be wasting your time playing a Candy Crush clone at all? Even if you're obsessed with it, should you encourage people to still play those games, or should you be trying to break them? This is a Prelude game, and looks like a survival game. Doesn't look terrible, but doesn't look great. Prelude games I'm not going to spotlight. Old School Adventure FPS, go to hells. Way too long of a title. Here we have a space game of some sort. I don't think anything that would interest me, and it doesn't look quite good enough that it deserves a spotlight. Odd that we have not seen a single adult game, but yeah, it seems like there are going to be spots, and those spots may be during the weekdays, in which even the Western adult games start to dry up, which arguably maybe is back to the thought that even the Western adult games, even though there's more of them, tends not to get released in the in the middle of the weekend, or in the middle of the weekdays. This is another game that's on the following list. How are all these games ending up on the follow list? Something is going wrong there. Fire Commander, I wish it wasn't mixed already. Otherwise I would put it on the follow list. I think what we're running into is probably a case where games are getting listed as coming soon, and then they're coming out a day, a week or later. And there is probably something I need to make sure to only put things that are actually listed for sale on the fall list going forward. So we will, I have sneakily decided to like stop looking at the prices and looking at the languages to speed up the whole process more. But I'm going to have to go back to looking at least the prices to make sure it's actually listed. This looks just like a physics experiment, not really a game. Frankenstein. Looks like it's probably an asset flip game. This is so weird though, I'm gonna put it on the fall list anyways. Just for weirdness sake. What is the game is garbage? We have like 3 more games. Captain Bones. Doesn't look like anything. Voltage High Society. Doesn't look polished enough. Unless it's a case where I've actually been logged out, which I suppose that's a possibility, but then how would I be able to still put things on the follow list, or if I was logged out? Nope, that doesn't make any sense. And like, that's the last of the games that came out in the past couple days. Not a single adult game at all. And let's finish up the Gematsu articles. Fuga Melodies of Steel 2 launches in 2023 for basically everything. A Tale of Paper Refolded launches August 19th for Xbox and PC, later in 2022 for PS5 and Switch. Which, what does this game look like? Interesting. Platforming puzzle game, I guess. First I've seen of it. Raiden 4 Ex Mikado remix coming to the West for basically everything in 2023, according to Gematsu. Bloomberg says GTA 6 to include a playable female protagonist, and Rockstar is cleaning up its work environment. Rockstar game employees expect the game is at least 2 years away. Cleaning up their work environment, and see, this is Jason Schreier's reporting. The woman who is a Latina will reportedly be one of a pair of leading characters in a story influenced by bank robberies, Bonnie and Clyde. In contrast to previous games, developers are also being cautious not to punch down by making jokes about marginalized groups, which arguably that's what GTA is, so I don't know if that's really gonna work. Like, if GTA comes off and you can even slightly make the argument that it's woke, that may lose a lot of interest around it. Arguably, there may not be that much interest around GTA 6 anyways. It's a big name, but it's a big name that hasn't been super successful and popular in quite a few years. particularly when you're considering it's still at least 2 years away. I almost certainly will need to play some ranked off-screen after today, but after that point I don't think I'll need to do too much extra. I also need to do some solo games. But that will leave me in a good position. Let's see. The story continues. Original plans for GTA 6 codenamed Project Americas were to make it be more vast than GTA game had been up to that date, with early designs calling for inclusion of territories modeled after large swaths of North and South America. People said, but in its current state the main map has been cut down to a fictional version of Miami and its surrounding area. They plan to update GTA 6 over time, adding new missions and cities on a regular basis and hopefully leading to less crunch during the game's final months of development. Despite this, the game's world is said to remain large with more interior locations than previous GTA games, which in a certain level GTA is kind of shockingly empty when it comes to going inside a building. Or going inside buildings. All this comes as part of Rockstar's attempt to reinvent itself as a more progressive and compassionate workplace, with Bloomberg citing interviews with more than 20 people who work there currently or left recently. Some of those changes include restructuring the design department to keep overtime under control, changes in scheduling, converting contractors to full-time employer, the ousting of several managers employees saw as abusive or difficult to work with, new mental health and leave benefits, a flex time policy that allows staff to immediately take off for an extra hour worked, and a promise to that excessive overtime will not be required for GTA 6, unlike the company's major releases in the past. So yeah, that does definitely sound like they are definitely sounds like there's an attempt to change the way things are done internally in Rockstar, and that's all good and well. And we'll just have to see if the changes to GTA 6 are well received or not, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go too far. There is a way to do it, certainly, to try to turn GTA into something slightly less abrasive. But you have to be extremely careful because there also may be complaints. Three cards from the deck. 1, 2, 3. activate this effect, whatever this is. I guess discard that card. And activate this effect. Destroy yourself, I guess. Then special summon that. I don't know if I really needed to go through those circles to accomplish that, but seems to have worked. Let's see, moving on. Picross X or Picross 10 Pico Bits versus Uzoboris has been announced for the Switch, which I assume this is just Picross, although it does seem like there's an actual character here talking to you, which that is probably something you need. You need little mascots and characters talking to you, even if you are just doing a somewhat boring Picross game. It feels like there might be a bit of a challenge in this too, in which if you don't move fast enough, you're going to take damage or lose. Because you can see the Picrosses are not getting bigger, it is instead timing you. And it seems like you have this giant worm chasing after you, and the bunnies are trying to defeat it. Interesting. So they've added a whole concept here to it. Which, that definitely makes it feel like more of a game, or at least more gameplay features. Let's see, PlayStation Plus monthly games for August have been announced. We already talked about that. PlayStation Plus adding new Yakuza games. We already talked about that. Trying to wrap up here. A game called Ruby is coming to PS4 on July 28th. Out now, where it is already July 28th. Which, okay. Nothing but this one screenshot. That's not really a lot to say or show. Let's see. Return to Shiranagasu Island for Switch launches November 17th in Japan. This looks like a horror visual novel, if I was to guess. It's already on Steam. Yep, and it's overwhelmingly positive. And it's already on my wish list. The animation's not great, but the story must be pretty good to make up for that. And then our final Gematsu article here is Shinzo Club launches September 1st for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. It's a side-scrolling roguelike brawler. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see what this does. Oh, 2 cards to return to their owner's hands. Looks kind of like a 8-bit platforming game. The art style and aesthetic and theme of it might be slightly different. Slightly enough that it's interesting. Definitely feels like it's trying to kind of ape Mega Man type games with a different theme. Apparently I can't attack, although I'm not really trying to attack as much as I'm just trying to special summon things. is going to be up to the wire, and I'm not sure if that up to the wire time frame includes time to actually collect the rewards, or if the rewards disappear at the same time. I don't think the rewards disappear at the same time. I think they give it several days to collect the rewards. That's the right way to do it, certainly. That's one of the things about the mobile game Destiny Child that I'm still playing and have to talk about apparently every single stream, though, is that the daily rewards, if you don't collect them, will disappear. So if I let even one day lapse, you lose a small amount of rewards, not a big amount. Let's see, the GameDeveloper.com articles, we have about 6 of these. Capcom saying its net sales dip is a result of dwindling major releases, not having a major release compared to Village. We already talked about that. Let's see. The Switch version of Catan will lose its online multiplayer in August. Publisher Asmodee claims that the impending GameSpark shutdown is to blame. This is another example of Asmodee Digital just doing a real poor job in porting and supporting mobile game versions of their highly popular board games that they make the digital versions of, at least. It just does not make any sense that you would let that happen one way or another. You put out a patch, use a different service. The other versions of Catan, I imagine, are still going to work, if there are other versions. I think there are. GameDeveloper.com has a different twist on headline here. GTA developer Rockstar is getting serious about cultural reform. Anonymous employees claim the company is working hard to ditch the boys club mentality. Of course, that could all be just fake news too. Like, it could be that Rockstar has actively hired employees or told employees to leak out that information or that idea, when that's not really what's happening. Or at least not the whole story. Yeah, let's go with this one. And then let's go with this one. Take this one. See what this effect does. Guess this one. And that one. May have been better to send this one back because this one could have special summoned, I know for certain. GameDeveloper.com says the Dark Souls Trilogy PC servers may be rising from the ashes. We already talked about that. Multiverses having attracted over 140,000 players on Steam. That's a big number. 2K has restored multiplayer shooter Evolve's peer-to-peer services. Out of the blue, Turtle Rock's online shooter Evolve has had its servers restored. What does it mean for the game going forward? Which, yeah, I thought they abandoned Evolve. It would be very weird if all of a sudden we start to have scenarios where servers get shut down and then they bring them back just to announce a sequel or to build up hype around it. That's probably a better scenario than them just being shut down permanently, but it also definitely feels like it's an annoying potential future where they very cynically shut down servers to save money and then just bring them back for a couple months to sell a new game and then shut them down a couple months after the launch window of the new game. Moving on, Meta's acquisition of the VR development Within has been roadblocked by an FTC injunction. What's the injunction again? With this injunction, FTC officially moves to fully block Meta's acquisition of Within over claims that the alleged illegal deal stifles competition in the VR market, which, you know what, there isn't that much competition in the VR market, so I tend to agree. That being said, the FTC, I think, is pretty toothless, and I wouldn't be surprised if the injunction fails. Let's see. Then our final GameDeveloper.com article here. Despite an uptick in revenue, Meta's Reality Labs posted a $2.8 billion loss. So they do all this effort to get into the VR metaverse concept, and they've got nothing to really show for it. And then we've got some fall list games to clean up. The Grand Lord here, I don't know why this was on the fall list in the first place, but we can remove it immediately. The Good Life, oddly now very positively reviewed, which originally it was fairly buggy, if I recall correctly. Good Life is an odd game, but when you think about how popular Stray is at the moment, it's not the craziest of ideas in comparison. This is by Swery, and maybe that hurt it more than anything. But yeah, The Good Life I'll put on the wish list. God Killer, on the other hand, is some kind of puzzle game. Not a lot of relevancy. From the creators of Deadly Rooms of Death. Yeah, I don't think that there's enough here to keep that on the fall list. God Beast, on the other hand, doesn't, I think, have enough relevancy to justify being on the wish list, so that can go. Particularly now, I'm at a point where I'm really not interested in playing games that look fairly similar to other games. Whereas this Girl Who Sees looks very different, even though it's not very relevant. So I'm going to give it some more time to think about it later. Then this Chilla's Art Ghost Train, some kind of hidden object game of some sort that's rated very positively, so I'll add that to the wish list. Ghost Ship needs more time. The Gardener and the Wild Vine. Yep, that can make it to the wish list. Arguably now the wish list is going to start to get too big, but whatever. The Gallery 2 Emberstones is a VR game, so that'll stay on the fall list. Gallery 1, also a VR game, so that'll stay on the fall list. Come on. And then the first ones. They say it's a point-and-click visual novel. It doesn't really feel like that, but I'll put that on the wish list. Alright, so that was quite a lot of things on the fall list that ended up on the wish list. And I guess what I have to say is if something is on the follow list going forward, it's not going to get a YouTube short going forward. So I may very well have a case here where I accidentally make a YouTube short that is the same game twice, and it's far too early to potentially make that mistake, but that may very well happen, and I'll never really know. Arguably, I could potentially have the games in the YouTube shorts come out multiple times, and very few people would recognize it or notice. But I don't want to actively do that, because that's crazy. Come on. Let me special summon something from here. Alright, now I'm just going to quickly scroll down my Twitter feed, and then with this game, this will be the end for me. Activate effect. Discard that. And I'm just hoping that I managed to special summon 10 things. Which maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I found out that you can get RSS feeds of DeviantArt galleries, which I don't know how many people are still using DeviantArt. I definitely have stopped using it. I used it only maybe for a week or two, like 10 years ago. And there are some sources of art there that are slightly interesting, but there is also just a lot of hassle in a website that is slow and clunky. So moving that all over to RSS feeds would make more sense. And at the very least, it's a thought compared to wasting a lot of time trying to read Reddit or specific Reddit forums around different types of art. Although that does seem like a Reddit should be a different thing. Should be more of a curation where actually actively choosing to follow people and have a feed of people you've only actively chosen to follow on DeviantArt should be its own thing. But there's been several other services that have since come out, perhaps with less of a mature focus, like DeviantArt is mostly more of a mature focus. A lot of nudes, a lot of pornographic or semi-pornographic or lewd imagery. Whereas Instagram, on the other hand, is just pictures in general. Really wasn't that much news, but I guess that's because I started late. GameDeveloper.com does have this article, The Evolution of Steam Tags and Why We Dig Them, which, while suggestions solely based on media you've consumed also work well, I do think discovery via tags can be super valuable, especially on a platform that approaches 100,000 games, which arguably when you have half of your games being tagged as indie, over half, and nearly half being tagged as casual, there is an argument to get away from letting those tags exist. Yep. And I would personally say that the Steam tags system is not really that good. It's the beginning of something that could be good if they put some effort into it, but this is one of those articles that really isn't an article more than it is just a blog for GameDeveloper.com. And that's it for the news. So as soon as we win or lose here, if I win, I probably am not going to get anything for it anyways. I'm really just trying to special summon. And I'm going quiet because I have literally nothing to say at this point. Sorry. Yeah, I just open up my phone. Nope, my phone's dead. The new battery is lasting longer, certainly. I like that my phone is a lot thinner and wider, but it is also kind of too big. I think for the GPU and CPU, if the screen and resolution were smaller, it probably would run a little bit better and faster. But otherwise, I'm really not having any problems with it. It wasn't the smoothest transition from my old phone as I would have liked. Maybe I made it overly complicated and difficult. But yeah, everything seems to be good. I don't have any more need to do anything with my old phone. I closed over 100 tabs on my old phone and just bookmarked a ton of stuff that I may get back to at some point in the future, or I may never get back to at all. But yeah, I'm surprised or kind of shocked as to how well my phone was running, my old phone was running with all those Chrome tabs theoretically open. But then my old phone, the S9, had an Exynos processor, and this has a Snapdragon processor. And I wonder if maybe the Exynos processors are better. And it definitely sucks that my new phone has like 2 SIM card slots when I'll never use a second SIM card for anything, and an SD card, micro SD card slot would have been way better useful. I don't even know how integrated into Android 2 SIM cards really is. Like, I assume one would be for data and one would be for phone calls, but I also kind of feel like every app secretly needs to be programmed to be able to use one or the other at any drop of the hat. Come on, come on. This is taking way too long. And so you can't surrender. Like, this is where Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel really needs to improve its system. Is if I've played this long, I should be able to just say, I give up, I surrender, win, without being punished by that. And you see people surrender all the time just to save themselves time, but then they don't get the rewards at the end. Meanwhile, this guy is probably trying to get as many of his daily festival quests, not daily quests, but festival quests done also. Come on, just win. There's like nothing that's gonna happen here. So if this guy is just refusing to win, it might save me more time to simply just wait the 118 seconds. What? What in the world? Why would you surrender? I guess the guy was just goofing off and he wanted to reward me. So I got some legacy pack tickets from that. And then hopefully we did get 50 of those, and there would have been 2 hours left on that. And so I need to do the daily quests, which I have 3 days left for. So I really could just wait until Friday, probably, and do this. Or I could play off screen. And then I need to do the solo match. This is now labeled done. Lifetime stuff. We're slowly churning away at that. And then dual lives. I think you do have to accept the dual lives rewards before you can get another dual life. So there's something to that. And it's not that much fanfare, but I do need to every stream open 10 packs here, so let's do that. Got another ultra rare. Another ultra rare. A rare. 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 Normal. 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 They're sorted by rarity. So I don't really have to say what they are. Once you hit the normals, they're all going to be normals going forward. So apparently I already had a copy of that one, but that's new. This is new. This is actually a card I used to play in previous Yu-Gi-Oh games quite a bit, but I don't know if Magical Thorn actually works here. And I guess this might be part of Harpy's Ladies, but maybe not. Maybe it has nothing to do with Harpy's Ladies. I don't know why I think it does, actually. As far as new normal cards, there's 4 and 3 new rares. So we are slowly making progress and slowly increasing or maintaining, having a ton of legacy packs and having a ton of gems. If we look at the shop here just for a second, 43 days, 12 days. So in 12 days, a new selection pack will come out. At that point, we'll open 30 to 50 packs, and then that'll probably bring up some secret packs that we'll start to think about opening those too. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe to any YouTube channel, you have to click the notification bell and click all notifications to be certain that you even have a chance of getting notifications. If If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's also a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wish list or just a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.